Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be Season 4, Episode 2 review of The Handmaid's Tale, which just premiered on Hulu. So if you haven't checked it out, make sure you go and check it out. Episode 1 review is already up, so thanks for tuning in. And Episode 3 review will be up soon, as well as the rest of the reviews after each week after they are released. So make sure you subscribe for that. So without further ado, let's get into Episode 2. That rhymes. So much happened this episode, I don't know where to start. So usually what I like to do is start with the protagonist, follow their journey throughout the episode, recap that, break that down, and then talk about the supporting. But we had a few bombs dropped this episode and we gotta talk about it. First of all, Serena is pregnant. Nobody expected that curveball. If you said that you expected that curveball, you are a liar. After everything, I would not expect Serena to be pregnant because just in my last review and just in general, we have already come to the conclusion that Commander Waterford is sterile. That is the reason why he and Serena forced June to have sex with Nick in order to produce a baby for their family, because in general, the commander couldn't do so, like other commanders as well. But specifically, Commander Waterford was sterile and he couldn't give Serena a baby naturally. So we already written him off as sterile. He couldn't have a baby, and that one time they had a moment of passion and they made love, she is pregnant. This changes everything, right? Because we see in this scene where Serena is stripped down by doctors, analyzed from top to bottom, answering questions that clearly made her uncomfortable about her marriage, including sexual and physical abuse. And her lawyer is trying to take the angle of the victim in order to have her charges dropped, or in order to persuade the jury or the judge that she was under duress, or whatever she's trying to do to get Serena off. She's trying to use the victim role and then obviously use her physical examination to support that. And so, as usual, as we know, the opposition, the other side, which would be Fred's side, has to be made aware of the evidence that's going to be used against him. So Fred knows this is the angle that Serena and her team are trying to use. And Serena's like, you know what? I'm not going to even let it get that far. Let me talk to Fred. And we see her try to charm Fred and maybe try to sweet talk him about memories. And let's just drop this whole thing. That's the angle that Serena takes with Fred. And he is not buying it whatsoever. He's still speaking down on her, calling her what she is, telling her about herself, and saying, listen, like, whatever charm you're trying to put on me, it's not gonna work. So this changes everything now that she's pregnant, right? Because now she is the mother of his actual unborn biological child. Will he continue to punish Serena? Will he continue to bring Serena down with him, knowing that she is now with his child? That is yet to be seen, and I'm really excited to see where this angle goes. In the spirit of talking about supporting characters, we have to talk about Nick. So we finally learn where exactly the safe house is. They're in Chicago. What a coincidence. We know that now Nick Blaine is a commander. He was transferred to Chicago, so of course the writers had to reunite that story, bring Nick in a full circle back with June, but not quite in the way that we thought. Now, if you watched the last review, you saw that I said that I'm not really too sure if I trust Nick, because Nick this entire time was playing the good guy. He was trying to save June. He loved June. He gave her a baby. They were going to take care of their child. One day, somehow, they're going to reunite outside of Gilead. All of that. And then we learned that Nick is not really a good guy, and the Swiss called him out on that. We learned that he was part of the insurgents that took over the United States and allowed Gilead to thrive in their new country. He was the leader and he fought in that crusade. And then before he parted ways in that meeting with after he parted ways with the meeting with the Swiss, we saw him lead a bunch of soldiers in a plane. Something really eerie and dark about him. So I was questioning whether we can trust Nick. And now we know that Nick is not the good guy that we thought he was, because in this episode, at the very end, I know we're working from back to front, but at the very end, we see that this plan that June had hatched in order to drug the commanders and free the girls was stopped abruptly when Nick showed up and shot the Guardian, who was part of Mayday, that was helping out June, and ended up arresting June at the end of this. So I was correct not to trust Nick. I don't know what his ploy is. He's no longer working with June in the way that we think he is. He thinks he's helping her. He's saying he's doing this to save her life, but it's yet to be seen what role is he going to play? Which Nick are we going to have this season? And is he going to impede June's process? Is he going to help? Is he going to be, a wrench in this whole plan, eventually be helpful to her? We don't know, but that's going to be interesting to see. So let's get to the beginning of this episode. We see that there is a visitor at the safe haven, and of course they had just killed Guardian Pogue the day before, and so we don't know why these visitors are here. It's Guardians, of course, it's just one or two of them, so June knows that they're not here to come collect them, they're here for other business, and we learn that they're looking for their guardian, and of course they make a stop at Commander Keyes' his farm. I'm about to call it a plantation, his farm, and so that is too close for comfort. They came looking for General Pogue and they came there. It's not a coincidence. They're going to come back again, and June knows better. They have to move, and she has to devise a plan on the fly. As we've seen, June mentally is strong, but she's also weak, and she's taking on all this responsibility, but no matter what, the other girls are weaker than her, and they're looking to her. They're all scared, they're all frantic, and they're looking to her to devise a plan. And as we expect, she devises a plan. She's going to leave right away, but she wants to talk to the contact of Mayday. Now, I'm thinking she's going to meet this big, bad general commander guy who's a badass. More of a badass than I thought Commander Keyes would have been, but we learned why he's kind of out of the picture. But they end up meeting this woman who is the contact who helps them arrange another safe house. But June says no. Oh, well, June says yes, we're gonna go there, but first I have to free the girls at this brothel. Like, there's no way I can leave anyone behind. And this is going to be, I think, June's Achilles heel, because she can never leave someone behind. She's just so unselfish, and she wants to help everyone, and that's to her detriment, because she puts everyone before her. And lo and behold, we find out that this is to her detriment, because had she left without these girls in the brothel, she wouldn't have been stopped by Nick. Now, we also learned the reason why, like I just alluded to, we learned the reason why Commander Keyes is kind of off. I thought maybe he had dementia or Alzheimer's. I didn't know what was going on with him, but it turns out that Esther, his young wife, has been slowly poisoning him every single day to kind of put him out of commission. Not necessarily to hurt him or kill him, but because he is bothersome to her, because he orchestrates her assaults. She has learned from other Marthas how to create a poison, put it in his pie so he doesn't notice, and that keeps him away from her. And June goes, you know what? Teach me how to do that. This is going to be a part of the plan. This is how I'm going to get these girls out and get them out tomorrow night, which was the night after, and get everyone out because they have to change safe houses. Also, we notice that this is another moment, another bonding moment between Esther and June, but it's an interesting one because last episode we saw this mother and daughter connection happen, and we're kind of like, ooh, this is awkward, this is weird, where is this going? Are they going to become like a mother-daughter duo? We don't know. Esther apparently has dreams that they go off killing people together. We don't know what this dynamic is going to be, but in episode 2, there's some friction there. I feel like June had a moment and she was over it, and this whole mommy-daughter thing is weird to her and she wasn't really accepting of it. But I don't think Esther was either, but when Esther finds out that June plans to leave, she begs June to take her with her, and of course June with the big heart, she's not going to leave a girl like Esther behind, especially not after knowing her story and helping her take out vengeance against one of her abusers. So the plan is this. Esther teaches June how to make a poison. June uses this poison to go into the brothel. She gets all the girls, convinces the girls to feed these commanders these shots so that they go to sleep, and then June's going to come back for them, rescue them. They're going to flee away in the night to the next safe house, and all of that goes perfectly until it goes awry. So she watches her work hatch out and the plan go into play, and she leaves, gets her guardian, gets to Chuck to help these women for them to flee, and then she notices right away that something is wrong. Why is the house so quiet and dark and dim? Why doesn't she hear any of the girls? There's just something wrong, right? And she was correct. As soon as she enters the scene with her guardian, who promises not to leave her, which is really interesting. It just seems that everyone pledges their allegiance to June, but he does his job, he doesn't leave her, and he gets shot right away, right next to her. blood spattered. And I think that was really like interesting to see the blood just splatter against her face, because I feel like there's just death all around June all the time. She literally cannot help it. No matter what she does, no matter how many lives she tries to save, someone's always dying on every checkpoint that she makes it to. And I know that has to be mentally and emotionally draining. She's seen death, she's had a hand in other people's deaths, she's actually killed people, but it's just so much death around June as she's trying to save lives, and that's just such an interesting juxtaposition. Speaking of juxtapositions, I did forget to mention, it was interesting the conversation that June had with Esther, when Esther was like, I don't even know if there's any good men in Gilead, like I think they're all bad. And interestingly enough, after all that June has been through, June defends men, and she goes, there are some good men out there, and I feel like Gilead brings out the worst in people. And in the next scene, right after that, Serena confronts Fred and says, I thought after you left Gilead and took off the uniform and left that place that you'd be a better man, but you're not. So it's interesting they put those two scenes right after each other. June gives a pass to men saying, you know, they're probably better outside of Gilead. And then right after that, Serena confirms that the men are not that great out of Gilead. Look at my husband. He's a piece of shit, right? So that was just a little thing I noticed. Anyway, so death is following June everywhere. Her loyal guardian, part of Mayday, gets shot dead. And we see that Nick is the one who orchestrated this SWAT. She had gun beams trained on her. And it was just crazy. I didn't expect Nick to be the person who's going to stop her in her tracks and stop her from making to her path. But of course, that's what makes this show super interesting. It can't be super easy for June, or else what would the Handmaid's Tale be, right? So that's where we're at. Also, we have to mention Luke and Moira. We finally see them again. Luke and Moira have orchestrated this dinner, this donation dinner, an honor dinner for June and her crusade, which they call the Angel Flight, which is a really interesting name. And they bring up Rita to talk about it, and she has a hard time. So it's good to see Moira and Luke back into the scene. We're going to see what roles they play in this season. And it's really important that we pay attention to Moira, because she's a different Moira. She's dressing differently. Her hair still looks the same. Her attitude's the same, but she's dressing differently. She also has a girlfriend, and that's a good thing to point out, because she's moved on, right? Because of her lover that passed away in season 3, or season 2 and season 3. She learned that her lover, who got stuck in Gilead, passed away in the bombing. And so Odette, that was her name. And so it's good to see that she moved on, and it seems like this girlfriend is making her better, bringing her out. She's brighter. But one thing that does dim her light is June, which was really, I paid attention to this, because Moira, no matter what she went through, she was behind June even when she wasn't with June. Whatever June was doing in Gilead, Moira was finishing the work across the border, and they were still working together as a team even though they weren't together. But this is the first time we actually saw that what was affecting Moira, and June just didn't approve of everything Moira didn't approve of everything that June did, right? Because we meet a kid, Asher, one of the kids who were on Angel Flight, and we get to see how's he acclimating in Canada. You would think all the kids would be rejoiced to be with their families, or extended families or distant families, whatever, their actual blood relatives, but they're not. Asher is not adjusting. He doesn't eat the food, Canadian food, which is kids' food. He doesn't eat pizza and chicken fingers and noodles, which all kids do, because he's used to Gilead food. His family is the only family he's known since he's such a young boy, and he misses his Martha. He misses his foster parents or his Gilead parents. He thinks those are his actual parents, and he's not adjusting well. And Moira takes that in. She probably is like an empath, because she feels that. She feels that, and she feels like she has to carry that burden, because even though June did something good, Moira is feeling the guilt of everything. She's become a mother out of nowhere. She's a mother to Nicole. She is now a crusader, right? She's part of this bigger mission, right? Because of what June has started. She's now like a social worker. She's visiting these kids' houses. She's a volunteer in the cause. She has taken on all these roles because of what June has created. And she had a little moment where she was like, damn, like, this bitch, she only thinks about herself. But then she realized like June is doing God's work. And Moira is just a part of that. And I think she realized that no matter, we curse out our best friends all the time. We're like, oh, this bitch. But she realized that none of this would have been possible without June. And I think she just had a moment that she had to decompress and let it all out. So that was definitely something to notice about Moira. So that's all we have for this episode. Episode 3, I'm looking forward to seeing where Nick is going to be going with this, how he's going to interfere with June's plans, what's going to happen with Fred and Serena now that Serena is pregnant, what's going to happen with June now that she's arrested. Is the plan completely foiled? Is the plan going to be rerouted? What's going to happen? Is Commander Lawrence going to come in now that he's a consultant, he's working with Nick? All of this is probably going to play out between episodes 3 and 10, but I'm really excited to see episode 3. So make sure you guys tune in for that. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe so you can see the other reviews being put up. Leave a comment below. Let me know how you felt about episode 2, predictions, questions, answers, everything. And I'm going to see you guys soon.